So, organizations may have multiple reasons and factors behind to conduct the layoff. 9 hours per day is a maximum, and 48 hours per week is what the limit for organizations for employees to work. My point is, how do we recognize as a professional? How do we recognize when this is manipulation is happening, or when do we know even that it's already been crossed? See, the toxic culture, the toxic behavior, its impacts it affect very badly on the employees. Is it sometimes organization does this layoff because of the public attention also? Hello and welcome back to my another powerful episode of my PodTalk, Voice Inside You and in Life. I'm Ashwini J from Bengaluru. See, as an HR professional and podcast host, my intention is here very clear, and it is to create the space where we explore real workplace challenges, share knowledge, we talk about many things, we learn and unlearn. And through these conversations, my purpose to bring that value not just only to my audience but also to organizations and every individual who seeks to grow, reflect and lead with awareness and purpose. And guess what, today's episode dives into one of the most uncomfortable yet critical in today's workplace. Yes, we are talking more about on from gaslighting, leadership silence, stealth firing, and credit stealing. We are seeking that where does the strategic influence end and toxic manipulation begin? See, this is one of the most challenges in every corporate, but my purpose in this episode is to how we can address the challenges that employee going through and how we can protect our employees well-being in the process and what organizations can do to prevent it and how they can fix it on what's going on and how they can recognize and address that. Yes. So let's dive into this powerful conversations with one of my most special guests of today's episode 5. Hello. So, as we're diving into this conversation on manipulation and influence in the corporate world, this is very uncomfortable conversations, yes, as I mentioned, but it's very critical and pivotal to talk about such hard conversations because as we are seeing many two challenges in the workplaces today, when we address those challenges, it helps to shape the culture more better, also to protect our employees' mental well-being as well. So, with that, I would like to say I'm happy and glad to welcome my today's special guest, who going to talk about and touch upon many few key elements and aspects on these lines between the manipulation and influence. Mr. Gagandeep Singh. He is an organizational psychologist, leadership coach, and founder of Hello Excellence Consulting. With qualification of MBA HR and master in sports psychology, also coming from the background of engineering, he he has been that foundation, he has been that coach for many organizations, and he's built that over of decade experience in global experience in time management, leadership development, and as well as in the workplace mental health. As we diving into this conversation between this manipulation and influence, and there are many other topics and touch points will be on the dark psychology tactics that play in the workplaces and how the leaders and employees alike can navigate these dynamics with more of awareness and integrity. So let's welcome him on my PodTalk of episode 5. Hello, Gagan.
Hello, Ashwini. Pleasure to be here. Really grateful to you for giving me an opportunity to be a part of your journey and share my experiences with you.
I'm so glad having you here on my PodTalk, and thank you so much for accepting my invite on this. So, Gagan, I think you know one common thing that what we have both. I am also certified with on psychological counseling. That's one of area. Your expertise in organization psychologist. We both focus on human behavior aspect. But yes, there's a little difference in terms of the area of expertise. But we're gonna talk more in alignment on the human minds and beliefs and actions. A lot more about on this. So,
Yeah, I am also very excited to be a part of this show.
yes. So speaking of this psychology, there are many different types. As you say, you're from organization psychology, and there are many other like counseling, and there are clinical psychology. Everywhere, I think it has many different perspectives and opinions and different views on this. So when I talk about, on the other hand, of this organization psychology, what my understanding is that they utilize the principles of psychology in the workplace, and they'll help organization to enhance on the effectiveness and on the performances and touch upon on the mental well-being of organization as well as of the people. So I'm curious to know, coming from the background of the HR, psychology, and engineering, what inspired you? What motivated you to choose this path, organization psychologist, and the kind of pave that you have chosen leading? So, what inspired you?
So thanks for inviting me, Ashwini. The reason that I moved from HR to psychology, or I would not say moved from, the reason I added an element of psychology in my HR practice was because a lot of times I felt as an HR manager, I didn't have some tools to help my employees deal with depression, stress, anxiety, toxic relationships. And oftentimes I felt that as an HR manager, I didn't have the right tools to help people and explain to them the deeper elements of human behavior. So when I was working as an HR manager, I often felt incapable as a professional, and I thought I wasn't hitting my peak potential. So to be able to become more effective in my work, I decided to pursue a master's in sport and performance psychology, and that's why I went to the US. I did my masters, came back, and now I integrate the elements of human resource management with organizational psychology and performance psychology to help employees become more effective, become more productive, and managers become more effective leaders at workplace. So that's the reason I partly added an element of psychology to being an HR beforehand.
Amazing. That's wonderful. So, you did your master's from US? I didn't know this.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. So I did an MBA in HR from India, and then I did a master's in sports psychology from the US.
Oh, that's awesome. Very nice. So, speaking of psychology, on further to that, as an organization psychologist in this specialist, Gagan, what exactly that you mean that manipulation from the context of corporate? How do you perceive that influence? From the on this context.
So great question. I think a lot of people often confuse manipulation and influence. So it's good that we discuss the definition, the technical definition first. Influence is a person's ability to make the other person do something that they don't want to do. That's influence. That's the technical definition of influence. Manipulation is a subset of influence where a person wants to get something out of the other person, but for their own benefit. So, when influence is used for your personal benefit, it becomes manipulation, but at the same time, manipulation is also a form of influence.
That's interesting. Okay, so on that, maybe shall we start addressing on the alarming common today that's stealthy fighting and stealthy layoff. I'll probably start from there. So, organizations may have multiple reasons and factors behind to conduct the layoff. Yes, I totally get that. But still, when we talk about the stealth layoff or stealth fighting, it often sometimes involves, hidden agendas, decisions made behind the doors, closed and within the closed rooms, and those things will be used as a justification, just to pressurize the employee to push it to the resignation stage or maybe to the termination stage. So, and every minor offenses or infractions that use it as a leverage. So, my point is, as an organization psychologist, how do you view this trend and its impact on the workplace culture and employee well-being?
So it's a very interesting question, and at the same time, I think it's a very complex question because there is always some level of imbalance in power dynamics between an employer and an employee, between an organization and their workers. And by design, I would say, usually management has slightly more power because it's easier to replace employees than to replace companies. So when there is a power dynamic between two parties, I often ask people like, how do you deal with someone who has more power than you?
Hmm.
What do you actually do? So one of the things is that you need to be a bit smart about it. Don't act too proud, and don't go around telling powerful people that they are very unintelligent or stupid. It invites a lot of misery. So when you are working with someone who has slightly some level of power over you, people need to be a bit more emotionally intelligent in order to navigate their professional careers a bit more carefully. Another thing that I've often felt is how do organizations usually work, right? There's management who wants their employees to be able to deliver some work, and they usually reward agreeableness and compliance. So
Hmm.
in my personal opinion, in my experience, usually employees who are a bit more agreeable, a bit more compliant, people who don't create a lot of noise,
Hmm.
are usually the ones who have a better experience in terms of stability, in terms of job security. Companies don't fire agreeable people who are hardworking
Hmm.
very easily. On the other hand, if you are a person who's not very agreeable, you get into a lot of conflicts, and there's not a lot of dependency on you, then organizations, it's easier for them to get rid of such people.
So, employee not supposed to say no, should say yes for everything. Is it what you're saying?
I think there's always a time and place for saying no to people. But what we need to understand is that most complex systems
Hmm.
work on human relationships. And if a person is not very adept at handling complex relationships, if they are not sensitive to the needs of the stakeholders, the other party, it
Hmm.
becomes very difficult for them to survive. So I'm not saying we should not say no. Um, I'm saying that we need to be a bit more emotional intelligent when it comes to saying no. Maybe we have to say more
There are
yes.
different approach to say
Yeah,
no. Hmm. Got
yeah,
it.
and probably to say yes a lot of times before we say
Hmm.
no.
Got it. Understood. Makes sense. And that's a very convinced answer on this point, Gagan. Thank you so much. So, I have one interesting point on this. So, is it sometimes organization does this layoff because of the public attention also, Gagan? What do you think? What's your perception?
I would not know a lot about that. It depends on
Hmm.
organizations what their agenda is. Usually it's not just that. Usually there are deeper problems, there are
Hmm.
financial complexities around layoffs. So companies don't enjoy firing people. I don't know why it's often glorified, but it's a very hard decision for organizations to let go of people. It's very stressful for the board members. It's extremely painful and stressful for the HR departments to let people go.
True.
It creates a lot of uncertainty in the organizations. It creates a lot of
Yes.
uh, stressful environment for people. So I think for any party, it's never easy to have to be put into these situations. So I don't think usually that's the case that companies do it for publicity. Companies have very deep problems which they often want to fix. A lot of them are structural problems, financial problems, management related problems, employee related problems. So usually it's a bit deeper than that.
Wonderful. Agree on that. So let's talk about on the work hours and irony of wellness campaigns and promotes that happens in organizations.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when we talk about the work hours and wellness thing, law and regulations, as per Shops and Establishments Acts, they all have made very clear policies and procedures on the work hours for organizations. Like, for example, 9 hours per day is a maximum, and 48 hours per week is what the limit for organizations for employees to work. So
Mhm.
it's very crystal clear, but still, most of the organizations they go beyond. They chase productivity. Because of that, employees go beyond of the maximum limitations of the work hours, and it leads to overwhelming in the later point. And organizations are missing out and they're avoiding probably, and when they come to the census, when they come to realization, it's overwhelming the people, and then they start of wellness programs and campaigns and promos, all of that. Not every organization I'm talking about. Yes, there are few, might be some of them might do this. So what is your perspective on this contradictions on the point work hours and the wellness program?
It's very interesting because as a psychologist, my job is to observe human behavior.
Right.
And yes, you are right. Oftentimes people have to stretch. In fact, in a country like ours, our country is known for hard working people. And on an average, I see people working 10, 12, 14 hours every day, especially in competitive environments. So that's the norm for our country. And I'm actually very proud that we have this culture of hard work in our country, in our nation. What I also often feel is that people don't realize one thing. I think people don't realize that they actually don't have to work extra hours. They don't have to. The only thing is that they need to plan better. Most people, and I mean most of them, do not go to offices with a plan in mind. They do not have a to-do list. They do not have a direction for the day. Usually they go to the workplace. They random things come up. They pick up those random things. Random meetings come up. They pick up those random meetings. They keep themselves busy. And by the time they're able to get rid of those random things, get rid of their emails, meetings, documentation which pops up,
Yeah.
when the time comes to work on the real projects, you are halfway done with your day or work hours already. So then people have to stretch. So when they stretch, oftentimes they burn out because body cannot take that much. So it's not that companies want people to work a lot, like crazy hours. Most companies don't want that. They are reasonable human beings and they want people to be fit, healthy, productive, and they want more productivity from them. But what happens is when people are not organized in their daily schedule, they end up overstretching themselves. So the problem is not companies. The problem is disorganized behavior of most of the employees. And I'll give you another example. It's very interesting. Imagine you go to a grocery store and you buy a pack of toothpaste, right? And you come back and then you realize all of a sudden that when you open the lid of the toothpaste, it's half used. It's not full. How would that make you feel? Let's say if you were to go and buy and you found that the toothpaste tube was half empty, how would you feel?
I feel I feel like returning back.
Yeah, returning back. Okay. Any emotion towards the shopkeeper who sold you that half empty?
That point, definitely I would question him. that, did he check before he packing that to me, whether did he check
Yeah.
on that or not? Yes.
You will question their integrity, you will question their ethics, you would feel cheated. I would honestly feel very cheated and angry if that
Um,
were to happen to me.
Sometimes there are two aspects here. One is it can happen. It might have probably happened by mistake. Human do errors. It can happen
Mhm.
that way, maybe unconsciously, or it happen consciously is what I would probably get to know once on the conversations, interactions with the shopkeeper.
Very, very nice. So if it was conscious, what would you feel?
Well, I would say that to give me a fresh piece of it.
Hmm. So you will ask them.
Yeah, I'll ask for the
Yeah.
fresh space. Yes.
It's exactly the same with management and employees.
Uh,
When management or senior leaders hire employees,
hmm,
they expect a certain level of motivation, they expect a certain level of integrity, they expect a certain level of
right.
work ethic. And when employees don't take accountability, they are not motivated enough. Their motivation levels are like half the level of
Hmm,
what it's expected. Even management feels cheated. They feel that they invested so much time and effort in hiring. Why is the employee not up to the mark? So it's exactly that. People
hmm,
have certain expectations, and when those expectations are not met, then of course the management has to push people to work harder and stretch their hours and squeeze work out of them as much as they can. So I think
got
it's a
it.
bipartite relationship. Both the parties have to have full
Hmm,
level of emotional investment in each other's benefit.
hmm,
Yeah, there's one more element to this, and this is a bit more biological element.
hmm,
Human beings biologically are herd animals. We are social creatures. We've all heard that. We are we are we for millions of years we've survived in groups, in herds. So human beings, when we are amongst
yeah.
the people who love us, who care for
Hmm,
us, we are around different types of personalities, our mental health actually improves. While on the other hand, if we are isolated at home, we are
hmm,
not meeting a lot of people, we are
hmm,
not engaging with different types of personalities,
hmm,
mental health actually deteriorates because the
hmm,
human body, for millions of years, it was not meant to be inside a closed room.
hmm,
It
yeah.
was meant to be outside
Right.
in the sunlight, in fresh air, amongst peers, amongst people, even amongst animals, right? So we needed that exposure to the outside world to feel healthy and safe and secure. That is why during COVID, a lot of people went into severe depression
Right.
because of that isolation. So work from home creates that element of isolation as well, which is actually
True.
not good for the mental health.
Absolutely. I totally align on your point, Gagan. That's very important for anyone, maybe for human or for animal. So, Gagan, I have something following interesting question to you. Let's dive something more deeper into this now, manipulation and influence. So, when we talk about this manipulation and influence, right? My point is, how do we recognize as a professional? How do we recognize when this is manipulation is happening, or when do we know even that it's already been crossed?
Hmm.
See,
Interesting.
because so manipulation can be come with any way, maybe sometimes in politeness, or sometimes it can be fake it, or sometimes it can be disguised. It will be dressed in disguise sometimes in many different forms. So uh, how do we recognize that as a professional in workplace?
It's a very interesting question, and I feel it's very relevant as well. A lot of times we need manipulation in relationships which are not very healthy. So here's how we can understand it. Imagine a manager who's very imperfect,
Hmm.
a manager who's not very good at being empathic towards the employees, a manager who is not able to provide psychological safety, a
Hmm.
manager who's probably not able to develop their team members below them, they are not able to delegate effectively, they are not able to build and groom people. So that's one imperfect manager.
Hmm.
Now, when an imperfect manager meets an imperfect employee, and an imperfect employee is someone who doesn't take ownership of their work, cuts corners, doesn't deliver good quality work, does not take responsibility for the outcomes and the results. That's an imperfect employee. Doesn't plan leaves, takes
Hmm.
too many breaks, is very distracted easily at workplace while working. When an imperfect manager meets an imperfect employee, they
Hmm.
both are basically trying to cheat each other. That's where manipulation comes in. A
Okay.
manager is trying to squeeze work out of their employee because they don't have the right leadership skills,
Huh.
and an employee is trying their best to not squeeze themselves and avoid work as much as possible. So they are trying to cheat the manager. So in
Hmm.
an unhealthy relationship where there are two deeply flawed people
Huh.
trying to negotiate with each other,
Okay.
that's where manipulation comes in, and that's where things become dark. And
Hmm.
very interesting thing about manipulation is that it's
Hmm.
part of the dark psychology, it's the part
Hmm.
of our shadow. So human beings
Hmm.
are animals,
Hmm.
and animals have certain animalistic instincts that have helped them survive. For
Hmm.
example, manipulation is one such instinct.
Hmm.
Guilt shaming the other person is another
Hmm.
thing. Favoritism is another thing. Withholding information is another thing. Right? These are all survival mechanisms. These are all different types of manipulation techniques that
Hmm.
people use. Gaslighting is one of them. Right? So when people are in unhealthy relationships, they don't have a strong influence over each other, they are both not having role model behaviors,
Hmm.
then they resort to dark psychology techniques of manipulation such as gaslighting, guilt shaming, to get their work done through the other person. So that's the difference, and I think it's been talked about really well. Carl Jung talked about the shadow and how the
Hmm.
dark side of the human psyche has to be integrated. Um, but yeah, I think the difference is where if people don't have role model behaviors, then they have to use all of these dirty techniques to get their way.
Interesting. Okay, let's say example parents. Parents will have favoritism. Like parents always likes the youngest one over the elder one, or sometimes some parents will like the elder one over the youngest one.
Yeah, yeah.
Vice versa, it depends on family to family, but they always treat both the childs in the same equally way, but it doesn't happen the same way in the workspace. So they always tends
Right?
to listen to the tenured employee over the new joint talent.
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely.
Because
It's
trust
absolutely true.
relationship takes time to build, but it doesn't mean that not to trust with the 0%, right?
Absolutely. So, yes, you're right that human beings generally have their favorites. And there's a very
Yeah.
interesting biology here. So, we
Hmm.
being herd animals, we tend to go towards people who are like us
Yeah.
because it gives us a sense of safety, it gives us a sense of security,
Hmm.
and we tend to avoid people who are not like us.
Hmm.
And not only do we not like the people who are not like us, we also get in a lot of conflicts with people who are not like us. So
Hmm.
it's like a double layer of favoritism. We like who we like, we dislike who we don't like.
Hmm.
People who we like, we look at their strengths more
Hmm.
and weaknesses less. People who we dislike, we look at their weaknesses more and strengths less. So human beings usually have favorites. That's a fundamental biological phenomena. Can't bypass
Okay.
that. Now, but one thing that you really mentioned well is that parents try their best to not the kids know, not let the
Yeah.
kids know who their favorite kid is.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly the same way with the managers also. Managers will always have a favorite, and they should, because there will always be one employee who would be slightly more similar to them, more
Hmm.
relatable, maybe even culturally coming from a similar background, similar hobbies, similar interests, similar
Hmm.
styles of working.
I
So it's
what
very
I
biologically natural to have a
huh.
favorite, but a manager should never let their team
Hmm.
members know who that favorite person is. So that's where a manager's responsibility kicks
Hmm.
in. I
Hmm.
may have a favorite team member in my team, but no one should ever know who that person is.
Agree. I agree that point. That should not you know it can create a conflict. It can create that indifference feeling. Can create in employees as well. So
Yeah.
that's
In
well
fact,
said,
can
Gagan.
I add something here? Very
Ah,
interesting.
sure, sure, please. Huh.
There are actually very good techniques to become the favorite also, because till now we were just talking about certain elements of our personality
Huh.
which we can't change, which
Hmm.
make us favorite or not so favorite.
Right.
I am saying you can actually use certain tools and techniques to
Huh.
become the favorite of your boss. And I like to call it, and it's a term that I created myself, I don't know if it
Hmm.
exists or not. I call it reverse psychological safety,
Hmm.
which
I
means a
heard
lot
about
of
this. Yes.
so a lot of people demand psychological safety coming from their managers, which is a very reasonable demand. I
Hmm.
also tell people to provide reverse psychological safety to their managers,
Hmm.
which means as an employee, am I taking care of my manager's work? Am I worried about their promotion?
Yeah.
Am I a dependable person? Do I deliver before the deadlines? Do I
Hmm.
deliver what I promise? Do I plan my leaves? When I am on a leave, I am on a vacation, do I call and
Hmm.
check in if everything's okay, if any support is needed? If a person provides reverse psychological safety to their manager, they actually have the potential to become a favorite. Even if I may not be a favorite at first, but if I follow certain practices, I can become the favorite of my manager. But that requires a lot of effort from my side. It
Efforts.
requires a
Hmm.
lot of empathy towards the manager from my side, which
Got
most
it.
people don't want to put the effort for.
So it's that effort should be on the both the sides, right? From employee also as well as from the manager. If one side ka relationship hai, to there's no point.
You're right. And there's a solution to this also, Ashwini.
Hmm.
The solution to any kind of problem is fixing yourself.
Correct.
Let me explain.
True.
Let me explain.
Hmm.
So, let's say you have a manager who is really toxic,
Hmm.
very unfair, very oppressive, very authoritative. They don't give you any freedom, they don't approve your leaves, they're really
Hmm.
bad.
Hmm.
If you have a boss like that, fix yourself, work on your emotional intelligence, try to find out what their unmet needs are, and provide that. So the solution is upskilling yourself, fixing yourself. Let's
Absolutely.
say,
Yes.
yeah, let's say we have toxic friends,
Hmm.
friends who bitch behind our backs, friends who
Yeah.
don't take care of us, friends who feel jealous when we do well in life. If
Hmm.
you have toxic friends, fix yourself, upskill yourself so that you get access to better people, right?
Great.
Spend time
Yes.
with good people. So again, the solution is fixing yourself. Let's say you have a family who is very, very demanding, who breaches all sorts of boundaries. They have no sense of boundary at all. Let's say they are very toxic, very oppressive family members.
Hmm.
Again, the solution is become more assertive, put in the boundaries, maintain those boundaries. Again, the
Yes.
solution is upskilling yourself. So the except for very few situations where there is genuinely a lot of
Hmm.
abuse, in most situations
Hmm.
the solution is fixing yourself. When it's an extreme, I
Absolutely.
always recommend people
I
to just
agree that
leave
point.
and move on.
Yes.
But most of the times, it's not like that. People think that their managers are toxic. Managers think that the employees are lazy. So in those cases, I just teach both of them. Manager needs to fix themselves. Employee needs to fix
Employees have to
themselves.
fix
So the
themselves.
ultimate
Yes.
solution is fixing yourself.
Absolutely. I agree that point, Gagan. Thank you so much for sharing that so much uh, valuable point on this question. It's very much needed. So, moving on to the next further important point here. See, when we talk about the toxic, I think you mentioned the toxic point, the toxic culture.
Yeah.
Uh, See, the toxic culture, the toxic behavior, its impacts it affect very badly on the employees. It eventually blows up and into the full blow of scandals. Now, when we talk about on the
Yeah.
scandals behavior, how the toxic corporate culture fuels the scandals behavior, and what organizations can do to fix it. What is your perception? What is your thought?
I think a lot of training is the answer. And when we
Hmm.
say toxic, toxic is a relatively subjective term. It's
Hmm.
for me, you could be toxic, for you, I could be toxic. So, toxic is a very subjective term.
Very
And
subjective, yeah.
as a psychologist, I always encourage people to look at pure facts, look at things objectively. And toxicity happens in relationships, not just at workplace, but in personal life as well,
Yeah.
when
Hmm.
people are not ready to take a step forward towards developing themselves.
Hmm.
So let's say, and this is a very interesting phenomenon. This is also a human problem, by the way. It's very easy for a human being to label the other person. For example, it's very
Hmm.
easy for a manager to label their team member as lazy. If
Yeah.
I am a manager who's not good at giving empathy, it's
Hmm.
easy for me just to say, oh, this person is lazy, doesn't know how to work. And then
Hmm.
I don't have to fix myself because now I have labeled the employee.
Hmm.
Similarly, an employee will do the same thing. They will just label the manager. Oh, my manager is toxic. My manager is
Hmm.
abusive. My manager
Hmm.
is exploitative. My manager is narcissistic. My manager is
Hmm.
sadistic. Right?
Hmm.
It people label their managers all the time,
Yeah.
and the moment they label the manager, immediately there is no responsibility on them now because the problem is the other person. So now
Hmm.
I don't have to fix myself. And just a few days back, I was sitting with a client, and they told me that, oh, my manager is really toxic, and how do I fix it? And I said, hold on, have we discussed your behaviors first? If you think they are toxic, there is very high chance that they think you're lazy. So let's
Hmm.
try to fix the lazy part first. You take 3 steps forward, and
Hmm.
if you do that, chances are that their toxic behavior will also go down, because when you take initiative, the other person reciprocates. That's another very fascinating phenomenon in human behavior. People love reciprocity. Not only do we love reciprocity, we are almost bound by it. So if
Hmm.
Ashwini does something good for me, no, I would want to do something good to her. Similarly, if Gagan does something bad to Ashwini, Ashwini would want to do something bad to Gagan. So the power of reciprocity is very, very high. It's a very subconscious
Power of
mechanism.
yes, reciprocity is
Yes.
very
So
strong.
I
Hmm.
always encourage people to take initiative, be it a manager or a junior employee. Take initiative, become a better version of yourself, and chances are when other people see that you're becoming better, they also become better in their conduct towards you.
Absolutely, Gagan. I think all of the points are right. I agree that
Yeah.
one has to work upon on themselves, to improve on the relationship with anyone. But sometimes what happens, if somebody, see, I see a lot of cases, too many of case studies, too many of stories that I've heard that one employee have been very loyal, working with, very efficiently and effectively in the work, in delivering of the project on time with more expectations, delivering to the management. Everything is aligned as per the expectations. But still, sometimes the employee would not receive what deserves, uh,
Yeah.
or maybe another way that the manager, no matter what efforts that employee put into to
Yeah.
project that showmanship, in terms of the
Correct.
work or maybe in terms of the personality, anything, the showmanship is not working out from the manager end.
Yeah.
So ignoring, avoiding the employee from all the way. So that effort of the one side of the employee is going on vain. What do you say about
Yeah.
on that?
It's very, very, very true. And it happens all the time that employees do a lot of hard work and they feel that they are not being compensated accordingly. Their appraisals are not up to the mark. And here's what I would want to like to talk about. There is actual value of something, and then there is perceived value of something,
Hmm.
right? You may have seen, let's say, you may have seen a lot of good women with
Hmm.
really bad partners.
Hmm.
Similarly, you may have seen a lot of good guys
Hmm.
with really bad partners,
Hmm.
and somehow they're still able to sustain relationships for a very long time.
Hmm.
And anybody looking from outside can see objectively that there's something wrong with this guy or with this girl, but the other
Hmm.
person cannot see it. Why? Because human beings have something called an image, a
Hmm.
perception about the other person.
Hmm.
And we take decisions based on not what the other person does. We take decisions based on what we perceive the other person has done. So
Hmm.
a lot of effort needs to go on the perceived value of something rather than the actual value. That is
Hmm.
why a lot of employees, what they would do is, a lot of
Hmm.
smart employees, what they would do, they would
Hmm.
go and check in with their managers every day. They would
Hmm.
give them small updates which are not even very relevant. They would
Hmm.
always give them the good news. They
Hmm.
will talk professionally in front of their bosses. In front
Hmm.
of their juniors, they may be really bad,
Hmm.
but in front of their bosses, they'll be really nice. They will dress
Yeah.
properly, they will talk professionally, they will behave nicely. So they are able to create an image, a perception which is very positive in
Hmm.
the eyes of their managers.
Correct.
And a person who's able to do that gets good appraisals, gets good promotions. Of course, it's also dependent on the budget of the companies, but perception is more important than the actual value of what is being delivered.
Hmm.
So, perception management, image management, I think needs to be taught to a lot of employees. People think that they have done a good job, they will get a good appraisal. I have coded well, I should get a
Hmm.
good promotion. I have delivered a project really well, I should get a good appraisal. It doesn't work like that. You may have done really great work, but that's in your head. How does the manager know until you go and tell them? So you need to constantly make sure that your perception is very positive in the
Hmm.
minds of your manager, so that even when you don't perform well, you still get the promotion.
So it's not only the performance, but also the showmanship skill is very critical. That also stands a lot. Got it.
Yes. And that's also very biological because
Hmm.
I don't know, a lot of people they say, right? What
Hmm.
is seen is believed. In Hindi we
Hmm.
say जो दिखता है वो बिकता है.
Oh,
क्यों?
yeah.
Because our vision biologically is one of the most powerful senses. So if you
Hmm.
go back to prehistoric times when we used to live
Hmm.
in jungle,
Hmm.
in a jungle, our vision was the only sense organ, our vision was the only sense
Hmm.
which helped us gauge danger without going close to the danger. Like, what are our other four senses? It's smelling. For that, also, you need to
Yeah.
go close to the stimulus.
Correct.
Touching, you need to go close.
Correct.
Hearing, also, you can't hear very far off noise. You still need to be closer to
Within
something.
the radius.
And
Yeah.
yes, you within that tasting
Hmm.
also, it's the same thing. You need to be in physical proximity.
Correct.
Vision is the only sense which enables you to understand the environment without going very close to it. It's very powerful. That is why people are influenced by what they see. That is why showmanship is very important because it's more biological than
Hmm.
psychological.
Got it.
People don't know the science, so they think,
Yes.
why
It's
should I
very
show,
important.
why should I go and give update, why should I bother my manager again and again? If I have a problem, I will go to them. But if I have
Hmm.
done a good job, they should know. No, unless you show them, they will not know.
Correct. I agree on that. So, moving on to the points you touched upon on the gaslighting. So, I'm coming on that point. I remember one of the author, Leon Festinger,
Hmm.
talked about on cognitive dissonance theory. I'm sure you
Yeah.
probably would have gone through it. So it's more about an inner conflict between the belief and the actions. So let's say
Yeah.
example, The guy who smoke knows really well that it causes cancer, but still continues to smoke,
Yeah.
right? So, belief is that he knows that it causes cancer, but action is still continuity.
Yeah.
So, coming back, why am I talking about in this point, this theory is that how do subtle forms of manipulation, like gaslighting and credit stealing, silent exclusion show up all of a sudden? So, these kind of things, why is it so hard to confront, Gagan? And how to normalize it again back in a team? What is your perception on this? What's your thought?
It's a very complicated question. I don't know if there's a correct answer to it or whether I know the correct answer to this question because it's a very complex problem.
Mm.
On one hand, all of these manipulation techniques, gaslighting or
Mm.
credit stealing, withholding information, favoritism,
Yeah.
all of these manipulation techniques are not just used by the managers,
Mm.
it's also used by the employees.
Mm.
Manipulation is a human trait, it's not just a
Correct.
management trait. So managers use it to get work out of people,
Mm.
while employees use it to get better promotions, better appraisals, like showmanship we talked about. It's a subtle
Yeah.
form of manipulation to
Mm.
get the good promotions, to get the good appraisals. So both the sides usually are manipulating each other, especially in unhealthy relationships.
Mm.
And therefore, it becomes interesting because management usually has more power.
Mm.
And because of that power imbalance, manipulation techniques of the leaders are way more visible and
Mm.
talked about rather than the manipulation techniques used by the employees. I don't think I've ever met an employee who has admitted that I manipulated my manager to get the good
Mhm.
promotion. They
Mm.
would say, no, if I got the promotion, it was because I worked hard. But
Mm.
if I did not get the promotion, it's because my manager is bad. And that's also another theory in psychology, which is called the fundamental attribution
Mm.
error, which is if I succeed, it's because of my hard work. If I fail, it's because of someone else. So, yes, manipulation is prevalent on both the sides, but at the same time, it becomes more visible because management usually has more power, they have more authority, and they can use it more easily
Mm.
compared to the employees. That's what I feel.
Got it. So, hey, yes, Gagan, your previous answers points, it was very value-added points, very good examples you gave me. Thank you so much. So, further to that, I think on a continuation, Gagan, concept of the drama triangle. So, this is by Stephen Karpman, a pretty famous one. The concept is about unconsciously take roles of the victim and persecutor and rescuer. Why am I talking about on this? I'll tell you. In manipulation, also, it's something like similarly works. Leaders may position themselves as a rescuer while actually they are enabling of the dysfunction. Employees are often keep them in a victim mode. So through the fear based of the environment and management. Now, are toxic managers just rescuers in disguise? So, why I'm asking this point is very related to the question what can be done at individual level to stay ethically resilient without being sidelined? How one can do that? Do you have anything to
So
talk
there are
about?
two ways to go about it.
Huh.
First way is
Hmm.
that people can learn to be a bit more emotionally intelligent and empathic towards the
Hmm.
manager.
Hmm.
Now, another question that often pops up in these kind of discussions are how do you manipulate your boss? How do you
Hmm.
get what you want from them? Which is very
Hmm.
similar to what you're asking right now. So I feel there's a very interesting rule that people can follow. It's called the 95-5 rule.
Hmm.
The 95-5 rule says Do not argue with people on 95% of the things that don't matter. So, for example, if your manager comes to you and
Hmm.
says, Ashwini, I am not very happy with the report that you have created.
Hmm.
Don't start arguing about it. Oh, this is a great report. This is how I went about it. These are the research
Hmm.
articles. Mhm. Don't do that. This is not important.
Hmm.
95% of the things are not worth arguing over.
Got
You
it.
agree,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
you agree with your manager, incorporate the changes that they want from you, and move on.
Hmm.
5% of things in your life, which are
Hmm.
very important, you put your foot down and say that this is a non negotiable, we need to talk. But
Hmm.
for you to be able to do that
We need
five
to.
times,
Hmm. Got
you
it.
need to say yes 95 times first.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then only would you get a chance to say no to those
Yeah.
five things. What most people do wrong is they lose their leverage. They keep
Hmm.
arguing about the 95% of the things. So when
And
the
this
5%
is.
of things come, they've lost the leverage. So I think to be able to do that, people should also practice empathy with the manager. Manager is also a human being. They have their unmet needs. Identify what those unmet needs are. If they are
Hmm.
narcissistic, maybe they need attention.
Right.
Give them attention. If they are
Exactly.
if they are very
Hmm.
self-obsessed, give them importance. If
Hmm.
they like to talk a lot, let them talk. If
Hmm.
they are someone who likes to control a lot,
Hmm.
create an illusion of control, no? So that's
Yeah.
how you can manipulate slash influence your manager to get what you want. Basically, you are identifying what the other person needs, you give it to them, and then in return, they give something to you.
Very nice. Very nice examples, Gagan. Thank you. I think you answered to my next question too. I think you made my job easy. So, do you think, Gagan, last, I think probably wrap this conversations up, organizations, do you think should have organization psychologist as expertise? Or do you think, uh, or we need to provide that fundamental training on human psychology to the organization leaders? I mean, any one
Very
of this,
good
what
question.
is your suggestion here?
I feel psychology is a very mathematical science. It's a
Hmm.
pure science, which
Is
means
it?
there are
Yeah.
best practices. There are mathematical formulas that you can follow.
Hmm.
95-5 rule is a mathematical formula that you can follow. Conflict resolution has a mathematical formula to it. Stress management has a mathematical formula to it. So, psychology as a science is very, very mathematical, very much grounded in research,
Yeah.
and not everyone has expertise in it.
Yeah.
We may live our lives, we may analyze our behavior, our peers' behavior, but that doesn't make us an expert in human behavior.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
organizations need to have people who have expertise in human behavior, who understand how the brain works, how the body
Correct.
works, how do emotions play out, how do relationships get managed.
Hmm.
And that person can be there to coach as well as to train both the managers and the employees. So
Hmm.
having an expert in an organization is very, very critical for most companies. And I think most of the smart companies already do that. All the mature companies like Google, Microsoft,
Hmm.
Tesla, Facebook, you'll see they have organization psychologists on their board,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
uh, on their panels, on their company roles.
And the
So
company roles,
all of the
yes.
mature companies
Hmm.
have organizational psychologists on their roles. And it's not just because they want well-being of people, it's also because they want higher productivity. When
Correct.
people are mentally resilient, when relationships flourish, people become more productive.
More productive.
So having a
Absolutely.
psychologist gives a very good ROI in the long run.
Very nice. Very, thoughtfulness in your response, Gagan. Thank you so much. I think in all of these conversations, can I, it won't be wrong if I say that it's an eye-opening conversations that what we had. It was very good. This conversation, manipulation and influence, definitely from now on, there will be a different perspective will be mapped and will be created in the people's minds from now on. And it's going to be definitely merit and plus points if we take it in the right way. And definitely it's going to help and shape the organizations, their leadership styles, also the employees' mindsets and organization mindsets too. Thank you, Gagan. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Ashwini. Thank you for having me, and I'm very grateful to you for inviting me to this wonderful platform. And it means a lot to me that you considered me worthy enough to be able to participate in your podcast. So, thank you so much for having me.
It was my pleasure having you. Trust me, it was so value added points, value added responses from your end on this. Every conversations, every questions. Uh, it's definitely not just value addition to both of us, definitely the value addition not only to the audience of viewers but also as well as for organizations and employees, as I mentioned earlier. uh, thank you so much. With that, I would probably say, hey, so if something this episode resonated with you, it's okay to question it, speak up, reflect, and know that it matters a lot for me and for my podcast. So please do respond, share your views on comment box, and let me know which part of the conversations, which part of that, meaningful points that felt resonated with you. So please let me know, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you subscribe it, you get more alerts and notifications of the next coming further episodes. So please do subscribe and stay tuned for my next episode 6. Till then, take care.